Hello and welcome. This is James Blanchard Cisneros at your service. Today I'll be reading the April 24th Daily Inspirational Message. The condensed version is 2 paragraphs long. Then I'll center myself, say a little prayer, and then make a couple comments on the message, and I trust that it will assist both of us on our journeys. Okay, here we go. The title: The relationship between forgiveness, setting self-loving boundaries, and being taken for granted. Paragraph 1. The more you choose forgiveness over judgment, the more you're choosing peace over pain. The more you make the conscious choice for peace, which is just an extension of the love that created you, the stronger your foundation and conscious connection to God becomes. The stronger your foundation, the more confidence and trust you will have in your own decision-making skills. The more confident and trusting you are of your own decision-making skills, the better, more loving and self-loving parameters you will set. The better, more loving and self-loving boundaries you set, the less others will be able to take you for granted. The less others take you for granted, the less they will try to take you for granted. The less others try to take you for granted, the fewer people you will have to forgive. Paragraph 2. Today, let us recall and reinforce the idea that forgiveness and setting clear, self-loving boundaries are not mutually exclusive. Forgiveness, setting clear boundaries, and not being taken for granted are all expressions of someone who loves and respects themselves. Because we are all one, somebody who truly loves and respects themselves can set boundaries while still being loving and respectful to others. This in turn will help bring the world to a more loving and respectful place. When you're being self-loving, such as through the act of setting clear boundaries or making sure that you're not being taken for granted, you're not being weak, mean, or selfish. These are acts of self-love. And because we're all one, these acts not only benefit you, but they also benefit all those around you. All right. The relationship between forgiveness, setting self-loving boundaries, and being taken for granted. Okay. I always seem to say this is simple, but the more you practice it, the more simpler it becomes. Let's just put it that way. And I've had a lot of practice. Okay. If you want to set self-loving boundaries, you have to move in love's direction. Okay. In the direction of the light in you. In the direction forgiveness. It's the same as light. It takes you towards peace. And peace and light and forgiveness, they're all aspects and expression of the love that God is. And so the more you walk towards in that direction and you make decisions from that place, the stronger your foundation. And the stronger your foundation, because your foundation is set on the rock. It's set on God. It's set on love. And so the more strong your foundation is, the more confident you become in your own decision-making skills. And so if you're doubting or you're fearing or you're anxious, just invite God to decide for you. Invite love to decide for you. Invite the light in you to decide for you. And that's how you can set clear, self-loving boundaries. And when your clear, self-loving boundaries are set and you're confident in them because you have co-created them with your source, you've decided with God on these boundaries, because you're being self-loving to yourself and we're all one, it's an act of love to others. And others might not see it that way, but it is, because we're all one. And so when you're loving the self and being respectful of you and being able to say no with love and compassion, being able to make sure that you have certain boundaries that are not broken or not disturbed by those in the world that are still asleep or in darkness, then whenever they try to break those boundaries or disturb those boundaries, your foundation is so strong that it just bounces off. And you're able to say no with love and compassion and feel good about it. You don't have to feel guilty. You're only going to feel guilty if your boundaries are set in the darkness, through the act of judgment and self-judgment and resentment and revenge and frustration and anger. If you set the boundaries with on that foundation, on the foundation of sand, let's call it, then those boundaries get broken. They get torn down. They're not set in the stone of love. And so, first of all, remember, if I want to set a self-loving boundary for myself, I have to do it. I have to put them in the foundation of love. I have to allow love to decide for me. And the highest part of you is love. And so you're, in essence, deciding with God, with perfection. And therefore that boundary is perfect for you. And when you feel that, you create a solid foundation and you create solid boundaries that are not going to be torn down or broken by the world's needs. And you're not going to feel guilty saying no. And when you don't feel guilty saying no because you know you're doing it from a good place, from a place of love, then those people out there who used to break those boundaries or used to create conflict and try to tear down these boundaries that you were trying to make, they will see that, he or she is sure. Her answer is her answer. And I'm not going to be able to convince her otherwise. And then when they start to see they can't convince you otherwise, they start to try you less and less. And so they start to taking you less and less for granted. And it doesn't come up from a place of you being so powerful or over them or above them or what have you. It just comes from a place of love. From a place of love, you set these boundaries. And now because you know you set them in love with God, you're sure in them. And thus, whenever the world tries to break these walls, they can't. And you don't feel guilty about it. You just lovingly say, no, thank you. And when they can't break that, little by little, they either go to somebody else or they say, well, okay, I can't do this, so they try you less. And thus, you have less attempts at breaking these boundaries, and then you have to forgive people less because they don't attack you as much. And so just the act of setting those boundaries becomes an act of love for everybody because they try you less and you have to forgive them less. And so when you forgive them less, it just means you're going to love them more. And so it becomes an act of love. No becomes an act of love. Having those boundaries becomes an act of love. And it becomes kind of like a guiding light, kind of like a torch you hold up, saying that there is this way. There's this way that you can set these boundaries in love and be okay with that. And be assured that you're making the right choice for yourself. And because it's the right choice for yourself and we're all one, it's the right choice for everybody else. And it becomes an act of love to everybody. And you become that lighthouse. You become that light. That I can forgive. And by doing so, I can set these loving boundaries. And when I do so, I am taken less for granted. And I can do all this just by choosing an alignment, by forgiving, which is an expression of love, and choosing an alignment with my source, God, and having that strong foundation where I can put those boundaries. Okay, I think I made the point. If you have any questions, please comment below, and I'll try to answer them. Thank you very much for your time. I love you very much. If you can be so kind as to like, comment, or share this video, it would help with the listening process. It might help somebody become more self-forgiving and forgiving and be able to set better boundaries for themselves, more self-loving boundaries, and being less taken for granted. Again, thank you for your time. I love you very much, and God willing, we'll see each other tomorrow. Peace.